Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ground and Pound podcast. The show where, as always, we're hitting you with them elbows of knowledge. And UFC 325 is here. Volkanovski taking on Lopez 2, the rematch in the main event. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Carlos. What's happening, Carlos?
Absolutely nothing, brother.
And we got a stacked full card breakdown for you, and we're going to dive right in. And first up, we've got Aaran Carlos taking on Namsrai Batbayar. The road to UFC, Carlos, opening bout here. Who you got in this one?
I'm going to take Tao in this one. Tao is, he's coming forward. He's being very aggressive, and he loves to push the pace, but he does leave big openings to be countered. But, he is kind of a dog.
We got Aiden Dennis, dog. Dodi Devon, dog.
He can eat a couple of shots. He doesn't make the fight pretty. You know what I mean? Like, I think that just the pressure of that is going to be able to overwhelm Batbayar. But the other thing is Batbayar will actually sit back a little bit, and he'll try to pick his spots. He's the best counter fighter. At times, he does throw a decent counter here and there, as you're seeing in some of his videos, and he can land those shots. And I don't know if it's lesser competition that he's fighting, or if he does hit pretty hard. But there's some shots that he's landed, and it looks like it has a pretty solid effect on his opponents. And I'm just wondering, if you hit Aaran Tao with one of those shots, is it going to be enough to slow him down? Tao, he's a good fighter. He's a bit reckless, but I'm going to take him in this one because even if Batbayar can't get a finish, I don't think he's going to be busy enough to get a decision. I think Tao will.
Yeah, this fight, realistically, to me, I'm also going to go with Aaran Carlos here. Trains out of City Kickboxing. It really just comes down to that I think Tao is going to be a little bit more measured. Both guys very aggressive on the feet. When Tao gets fights to the mat, he looks for damage, ground and pound, looks to really hurt you. Batbayar is a guy who, on the feet, he wants to look to hurt you, whether that be a heavy forward pressure, spinning back kick, spinning back fists. He likes to throw uppercuts in the clinch to the body as well. And realistically as well, I think the level of competition that Tao's fought is slightly better, losing on the Contender Series to Elijah Smith in a competitive fight there. Batbayar, he's lost to the Human Alphabet in Namsrai. Again, a guy that didn't really have too much success inside the UFC. All of his 9 wins as well are coming inside the distance. So I do think if this one does end up kind of going to the judges or going late in the fight, that probably serves Aaran Carlos a little bit better. A little bit more measured pressure, a little bit more of a gas tank as well. He has dropped from 135 to 125 here. I know when I watched his Road to UFC performances, some tape on him, that the commentary team in Oban was saying about how he's seen his kind of cardio improve. He's looked a little bit better, especially physically as well, through the shoulders, through the chest. And I think in this fight, it really just comes down to the fact that Aaran Carlos is training with guys at City Kickboxing like Dan Hooker, elite level guys, that he's going to have a better game plan, a better team coming in. He's not just throwing with reckless abandonment. He throws a lot of feints on the feet as well. I do think Batbayar is a guy here that realistically he's overzealous, he's over-aggressive, and he's not fighting a higher level competition. I think that serves you well on the regional scene, on the Asian regional scene, where you can run through guys with, sort of just winging punches, hoping to get takedowns and kind of just muscling people in the first few rounds. But when you do that against a guy who he's got a little bit more experience, he's got a little bit more measure, a little bit more fight IQ, I just don't see that being a path to victory for him. I think Aaran Carlos is going to be able to get this one done inside the distance here. Always going to be able to ride it out with some pretty much a more of a lengthened game plan, as Batbayar tends to slow and Aaran Carlos takes over late. So give me Aaran Carlos here to get this one done. And next up, we've got Lawrence Lui taking on Sulangrangbo. And I'm going to kick this one off here. Give me Rangbo here. Even though he's 20 years old, obviously still a lot of room for improvement over in the Asian regional scene. I have my question marks, but I was impressed with what I saw so far in this contest of the road to UFC. He's looked very light on his feet, changes angles well, very athletic, fast striker, and in most of his matchups, he tends to have the height and reach advantage here at 135. I really like the way this guy cuts angles, and he really, really does a good job of being able to be first to the target. Very, very measured as well, and I think this kid's got a lot of promise. I think he's not there yet. I don't necessarily think that he's UFC level, but I think there's promise in the kid. He's very measured on the feet. Clearly been doing martial arts for a very long time. Clearly grew up, pretty much in the sport from since he came out of the womb. Clearly, good takedown defense, very, very fast sprawl. And I think realistically in this matchup, he's going to have the big striking advantage. The hands are going to be much faster than Lui here. And Lui is a guy that when I watched tape on him, he comes out, he's fighting out of City Kickboxing, a training partner of Jamie Mullarkey. And one of the bad habits of Jamie Mullarkey is his chin and him getting caught. And I think that's exactly what Lui does here. I think he gets caught. He's very stiff on the feet. He's a gritty wrestler, a guy that likes to really sort of push a pace with his wrestling, but he doesn't have that good a top control. And I don't think that he's going to be able to get Rangbo down here early and often. I think the way this fight plays out is that Lui is going to be a guy that's going to look to mix in the grappling. He's going to be measured on the feet early, look to have a back and forth striking affair, and hopefully mix in the takedowns. But I think Rangbo is going to be far too fast for him, far too elusive. I've seen his sprawl is very, very fast. He does a good job of clearing his hips.
Work with me now. It's all in the head. Yeah, it's all in the hips.
I think realistically that Lui is going to get knocked out here. You saw in his last road to UFC fight that he came out through a lazy kick and he got chin checked right away. And that was against a guy who does not have the striking that Rangbo does here. I think we're looking at a knockout here. I think we're going to see the 20-year-old get a highlight reel finish here on the road to UFC finale in front of the stacked pay-per-view crowd here at UFC 325. Give me Sulangrangbo here to get the knockout against the City Kickboxing opponent. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I'm also going to take Rangbo in this. He's pretty comfortable in the cage, pressing the action. While he's closing the distance, he likes to throw some feints. And, at 20 years old, gives him that quick reflexes and cardio advantage to compete at this level. So he's still very much learning his craft. He carries his guard low. He sometimes allows himself to get hit with some stray shots. But if he's going to get hit, Lui, he's a little relaxed in there, so he's not going to be able to jump on those counters. And he is more of the counter fighter, and he does pick his shots. And he can be wild at times. And, when he's doing that, that's when he sometimes tends to get clipped in the exchanges. And he's got decent takedown defense, mixes his strikes better. His wrestling is solid enough that if he gets taken down, he can get back up. And what he'll need to do in this is try to mix everything together against Rangbo and try to slow him down and try to pick him apart from there. But that's easier said than done. Rangbo, he's got those, like I said, he's very quick. His reflexes are sharp, and I think he's probably going to get this one done.
Yeah, I just wanted to add in there as well that when you look at Lui's fights, he does do a lot of damage once the fight does hit the mat. But I just think that he's going to struggle, especially in this matchup, to be able to get the fight to the ground. And that's where he does most of his damage. So as the fight plays on, he's going to get more tired shooting for takedowns, while Rangbo is just going to have more and more confidence as he's lighting Lui up on the feet. And when you watch tape on Rangbo as well, his shovel uppercut is a thing of beauty. Really times it well, catches people coming in. I've seen in multiple fights now he's been able to land that shot, and I wouldn't be surprised if he lands it here. So I don't know how confident Carlos is in Sulangrangbo, but I feel pretty good about him here, and I think he might be the underdog. So might be a dog of the week contendee this week, for next week, I should say, for Sulangrangbo. And next up at UFC 325, we've got Sebastian Szalay taking on Keiichiro Nakamura. Carlos, who you got in this road to UFC matchup?
I actually took Szalay in this one. Nakamura looks good. He's aggressive but wild. I think he's going to have the height and the reach advantage to go with it, and need to mix up his attacks more. Szalay, he's skilled, not dynamic, not as dynamic as Nakamura, but can get the job done in combination would like to see Szalay implement a lot more grappling, get this fight to the mat, and I think defensively on the feet. And I think if he can do that throughout the matchup, I think that's going to be his key to success there, at least. Get this fight to the ground, keep your hands up, keep the guard high, tight shell, keep moving, and once you get this to the mat, go to work. So I'm going to take Szalay to get it done.
Yeah, I'm also going to take Szalay here. He's a 10-time karate international champion.
Wax on, right hand. Wax off, left hand. Wax on, wax off.
2-time eternal featherweight champion. He's pretty impressive to me, especially on the feet. I like the hands as well. You tend to see with some of these karate and kickboxing experts, they got the kicks, but the hands tend to lack. I like some of the combinations he throws with the hands. He'll go to the body, he'll come upstairs, he'll throw, tight 1-2s, and the kicks are all there. Spinning wheel kicks, he'll attack the calf. I've seen decent takedown defense out of him. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's going to be able to defend all takedowns, but enough to keep him on the feet where he's going to have a lot of success. With Nakamura here, he's a guy who's trained with Rinya Nakamura, same last name, not related, who is the obviously the guy in the UFC, the Olympic hopeful for Japan. Former, I believe he's a gold medalist as well. And he trains with him in his wrestling. And from the tape that I saw, Nakamura's wrestling training has not been going very well when he's been training with Rinya Nakamura. Got taken down multiple times in that fight. Stands southpaw, blasts kicks very well. Gave up early to the first round of his last opponent when I watched it back on tape. He can grit down on his mouthpiece. He is a guy that can definitely stand and trade. I do think he lacks a lot of head movement, though. He is there to be hit. He likes to take one to give one. He's a guy that will, get into a firefight. But the way that I see this fight playing out is you've got a technical guy who's won titles here in, style of karate where he can, point fight, win exchanges, land, be first and third. And I think a guy like Nakamura, if he gets into a firefight with a more technical striker here, it's probably going to be lights out. I do question how Szalay's going to handle the southpaw, the range here of the taller, rangier Nakamura. I just don't see a path to victory for Nakamura if he doesn't have the grappling, which he doesn't. He tends to be a guy that's very linear. He tends to walk his opponents down, take one to give one, and I think that's a recipe for disaster here against a guy in Sebastian Szalay. Szalay also training with an elite camp here. He's a former training partner of Quillan Salkilld. He's a training partner of Jamie Mullarkey. I also believe as well that he's got Volkanovski's coach as well. He's been training with Volk for this fight. Obviously, him being in the main event, the Hall of Famer himself, I'm sure he's going to be very prepared for this fight. Keep this one standing, win the striking exchanges here against Nakamura. Just deal with the kicks. I think corralling the kicker here will be the game plan. And I think Sebastian Szalay gets this one done. I feel fairly confident in him this week. And next up at UFC 325, road to UFC, we've got Sang Yuk Kim taking on Dom May Fan. Carlos, who you got in this matchup?
This one I'm going to take Fan. I feel that he needs to get this fight to the ground. Both are not very skilled on the feet, but I'd give the edge to Kim, at least the looking for the submission finish, because once Fan gets you down, he's more controlled than anything. He does have that submission threat, but I just feel like he's a fish out of water on the feet. And if you're going to stay on the feet with someone like Kim, what's probably going to happen is he's going to get hit by something wild. And so far in Fan's career, he's had 2 losses, and both losses come to Quillan Salkilld.
Who's your daddy?
Salkilld. And, those aren't bad losses, and they're both by rear naked choke. So nothing to look down on, but as a grappler, I feel like he should be able to stay safe from the submissions from Kim. If he gets it down there, as long as he has top control, he should be fine. Should be able to control him from there. And I think defensively, to get close, what he has to do is he's got to time something, like throw a jab and then shoot in. Force Kim to make a movement, get him down something, catch him while he's throwing a strike wild. Because like I said, Kim, he's game, and he's going to swing. He's not the most technical, but as long as it lands and it hurts you, he can get you out of there. And I haven't really seen Fan get hurt like that, but now's not the time to find out. So I think that if he could stay composed, get this to the ground, and he might come in looking like one of the best strikers we've ever seen, but I don't think that's going to happen overnight. So I'm going to take Fan in this one to get it done.
Yeah, and if you're a fan here of the Ground and Pound podcast, hit that like.
You serious?
Like and subscribe button. I'm also going with Fan here. I think this fight, realistically, when you watch tape on both guys want to look to be able to get into dominant positions on the ground. Both guys, great entries on their takedowns. One of the things I do like about Kim, however, is that I think he sets up the striking for the takedowns a little bit better than Fan does. In a lot of Fan's fights, opponents are taking him down and he's able to reverse position, get into dominant positions and beat them up from there. Kim is a guy who he will walk you down with measured pressure. He'll throw in boxing combinations. That gets the the guard up for his opponent. That's when he shoots him for the legs. That's when he backs you up against the fence and he's able to get you to the ground. When Kim goes, to the ground, he looks to take you back. He looks to really go and latch up some submissions. He's not necessarily a guy that's going to look to get into mount and land elbows and land ground and pound. Dom May Pham is a guy who does exactly that. Like I said, in a lot of his fights, he gets taken down. However, he does a very, very good job of when people take his back, he turns into them. He's very, very active. He likes gritty, fast-paced fights. He likes the pressure. He likes fights to be gritty and kind of dirty, in my opinion. And I think that serves him well. I think he's got a very game opponent here in Kim. And I think what happens here is Kim is going to be able to have his way on the feet. Pham's going to get taken down, and he's going to be able to reverse position and keep that dominant position and land ground and pound, land, kind of heavy shots on the ground here. And I think it's really just going to come down to the fact that if this fight plays out how a lot of them do with their wrestling style, I think that suits Pham. If the fight plays out where we've got two kind of gritty wrestlers and it ends up being a back and forth striking affair, I worry about Dom May Pham's striking here. I think he leaves his chin up in the air at times. He does have good kicks, but I trust Kim striking a little bit more. So I do hope that both guys kind of stick to their grappling chops here. But give me Dom May Pham here. I think he's going to be able to reverse position on the ground and ultimately find a stoppage with ground and pound. And next up at UFC 325, we've got Junior Tafa taking on Billy Elkanan. Short breakdown from me here. I'm sure Carlos is going to go the same way. Carlos, who you got in this matchup?
I took Billy Elekana in this one, basically just because Tafa he's wild and he's unskilled. Elekana he's skilled, not a killer, but technical enough where he could stand with you and not get hurt. If you stand in front of him, he can hit you, he can hurt you, he can get you to the ground. He's not the greatest wrestler, but he's skilled enough to get someone like Tafa down, and he's also skilled enough to submit him. I don't think Tafa is on his level anywhere except the power, but, don't even know if he can land it on someone like Elekana, because Elekana defensively is pretty sharp. So if he watches Toko's fight, that's pretty path to victory is just be more technical and in wild exchanges, just stay defensive. So Elekana is who I got.
Yeah, same here for me. Billy Elkanan, very confident favorite for me in this UFC 325 matchup. I honestly believe that this is going to look like the first round of the Bogdan Guskov fight. Billy Elkanan came into that fight, obviously short notice, big underdog. Guskov is a guy who's been on a run, heavy power in the hands, ducks right underneath the big power shot, looks to take the fight to the ground. He's able to take Guskov's back and ride out that first round in a dominant position. Wasn't able to sub Guskov, obviously a much higher level opponent here than Junior Tafa, but we've seen with Tafa that if you get him to the mat, he is either going to get subbed, he's going to either give up his back, he's either going to let you beat him up. He cannot get back to his feet. I think Billy Elkanan's the better athlete. I think he's got much more upside. I think on the feet he's much more technical, much more athletic. I think he cuts angles better. Tafa is, as Carlos said, as he broke it down, he's just not very good, simple as that. And I'm not sitting here trying to hate on the guy. Obviously, he comes in with an exciting style. Fans obviously like guys that want to stand and bang, but there's levels to standing and bang. You've got to be able to keep the fight on the feet. You've got to show that you can set your shots up. If you are very one-dimensional and a guy that just wants to look to take people's heads off, opponents are going to duck right underneath, take your back, and ultimately submit you. And that's exactly what I see Billy Elkanan doing here. And it's really just a 1 + 2 = 3 breakdown here for me. And I think if the price is right, we might look at him for Billy Elkanan by submission round 1. I do think that Junior Tafa, unless he's, gone to Dagestan for 6 months and forget, as
Wrestling, send him 2-3 years Dagestan and forget.
people like to say. I still don't think it really matters. I don't think he's a guy that's looking to come in here and improve. He doesn't seem to improve from fight to fight. There's a huge hole in his game, and Billy Elkanan's going to exploit it. So give me a Billy Elkanan first round submission here. And next up at UFC 325, we've got Kaan Ofli taking on Yizha. Sure, I'm butchering that name, but I'm not going to butcher this breakdown. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I actually took Yizha in this one. I think Yizha is pretty much at the same level as someone like Ofli, even though he has about twice as many fights. Yizha does come to finish. He's got hard strikes, very physically imposing, actually. And, Ofli he's skilled. He's a good grappler. He's technical on the feet. He does leave gaps at times where you see he's paid. He's got hit in those openings as well. He gets clipped in exchanges, often. And I just think they both are decent fighters, but there's nothing too special about them. And they both have that thing that makes them not so special. But I think Yizha just brings a little bit more aggression, and I think he brings a little bit more punching power, a little bit more striking power overall. And hopefully he fights good, going forward. But if you can get him going backwards a little bit, I think that's where Yizha is going to have he's going to get the better of him. And I think Yizha strikes hard enough, to make him back up. And so that's who I got in it. I got Yizha. Not that Ofli is terrible. Not that, I said they're both the same level. They're both good, but they don't have one to put him over the top. I just think Yizha has a little bit more than Ofli in this.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I've flipped. Probably my toughest pick on this entire card, which is why I joked around about I'm going to butcher this one. I don't really even have a pick in this moment, if I'm being honest with you. Yi, or whatever the hell. You, me, him, whatever you want to call him.
You!
Yes?
Not you, him! What's your name?
Me.
Yes, you!
I am me. He's me. And I'm you.
And I'm about to whoop your old ass, man, because I'm sick of playing games. You, me, everybody's ass around here. Him!
Whatever you want to call him. I look at this fight as both guys can grapple. Ofli is a guy who definitely wants to be able to get the grappling going, and I said to Carlos off air that Kaan Ofli is a guy to me that if he cannot take your back, he cannot get the grappling going. He doesn't have a plan B. His striking is mediocre at best. He doesn't throw a ton of kicks. His boxing is just about average, and I think he lacks a lot of power, and I think once his opponent kind of realizes that and knows that they can defend the takedowns, I think it's kind of downhill for him there. I think in this fight here against Yizha, or I'm going to make another attempt at that guy's name. He has power in the hands, but people are going to look at this this matchup and say, okay, he was able to knock out Weston Wilson in his last fight. And if you're not aware of Weston Wilson, most chinniest guy probably inside the UFC, it was an absolute plant for him to be able to find the knockout against Weston Wilson. So that doesn't really tell me anything about his skill set. Both guys suck. Both guys can grapple. I'm going to lean probably ever so slightly to Zhang, however you want to pronounce his name. Who really cares? Do we really care about this fight? Either one guy's getting knocked out, one guy's giving up his back and getting subbed, but give me the Chinese man to get this one done over Kaan Ofli. I just don't see Ofli being able to get the grappling going, and I do think that once that happens, I do think that Yizha or whatever is going to be able to get the knockout. Who cares about this one? Next.
Boring.
And next up at UFC 325, we've got Oban Elliot, the Welsh gangster, taking on Jonathan Micallef. Carlos, who you got in this one?
Well, this one I went a little back and forth with, and even right now I'm a little undecided, but I think I'm going to go with Oban Elliot in this one. Because Elliot's a mover. He has great defensive wrestling. This fight is not going to go to the ground. I don't think Micallef wants it to go to the ground, but he's going to be able to keep this on the feet. Micallef's going to have a hard time getting Oban Elliot to stand in one spot to land a shot. With that said, now, Micallef does have the reach advantage, and he does rip some heavy kicks. Those kicks aren't blazing fast. You can see them coming, but they're heavy. And they're very effective. And someone like Elliot will be able to move out of the way of them. Micallef's going to have to time it just right to land it on him. The problem is later on as the fight goes on, what exactly is Elliot going to do to close that little bit of a gap in the reach? He's going to have to take some of those shots. So in my mind, I'm like, are those going to slow him down? So I feel that Oban Elliott's key to winning this fight is probably do a lot of grappling, fight in the clinch. And when you're not engaged, step outside that kicking range, move around. When you're ready to engage, shoot in, get to work, stay busy. Because if you just stand at distance with Micallef, he's going to rip your body up, probably going to rip your leg up too. And he does come high with those kicks, and they're hard up top as well. So Oban Elliott's going to have to be sharp defensively. And from what I know, he's pretty pissed off about some type of comment that Micallef made. Now's going to be the time for him to get back at him. But it's not going to be easy walking through that, because Micallef's punches, they're straight, they're long, but they're not, they don't have as much pop as some of his kicks do. His kicks are heavy. So I'm going to go with Elliot. I think he can stay out of range, come in, do some work, get out, and get this done.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
Give me Jonathan Micallef. I've not really been that impressed with Oban Elliot inside the UFC. Obviously, he's got decent wrestling. The guy's got a lot of confidence and a lot of swagger, but that's about it, in my opinion. I think Micallef, like Carlos mentioned, those kicks are weapons. He went back and forth with Giussette, which at the time looked like a good performance. We will say, obviously, that Kevin Giussette, a lot of question marks about him and how good he actually is. But Micallef looked good in that fight, was able to keep the fight on the feet, was able to land in combination, good boxing, good kicks, good takedown defense. And I think that's going to be his best path to victory here. Keep this one standing. Oban Elliot, we know that he wants to get fights to the mat. He's a guy that does have good takedown defense, but it was exploited in his last fight against Sung Yung Ko, I believe it was, or Sung Yung. I'm not sure how you pronounce that guy's name. 2 seconds. Ko. In his last fight, he was kind of exploited with the Sambo background of Ko, and I don't really see how he's going to be able to implement his grappling here against Micallef. Both guys similar height, similar reach, except to me, Micallef is a guy that's got the better striking, and I think that's what it's really going to come down to. Sprawl and brawl, keep this fight on the feet, land kicks at range, throw in combination, and I think once Elliot, kind of doesn't really have a second game plan here as far as the back and forth striking exchanges. He's just going to be shooting at legs. The referee is going to be see it as stalling. They're going to break them up, and Micallef's going to land the bigger shots. And I'm not sure about the beef that these two have. I don't even know if gangsters really have beef or they handle beef, but I don't really think that Elliot's going to be able to handle his beef here. I think Micallef is a guy who looked pretty good in his last fight. These two were supposed to fight, I believe it was sometime last year. Elliot had to pull out of that fight because he was sick when you look at him Tapology. So might come in here fully healthy, or maybe he's running from Micallef. But either way, I think Jonathan Micallef here, striking is going to be enough, keeping it on the feet. Oban Elliott's not really a guy that's impressed me, especially when it comes to the boxing and the striking. His cardio is good, but so is Micallef. So give me the slight underdog here on Jonathan Micallef. And next up at UFC 325, we've got Torrez, Finney taking on Jacob Malkoun. And I'm going to kick this one off here. I think this is great matchmaking. I don't know what Carlos thinks. We'll find out in a moment. I don't know what you guys think. But Finney in his last fight, obviously, he pretty much snuggle-fucked Robert Valentine, right? So they want to see how this guy gets done at middleweight. They want to see how his striking holds up. They want to see how he does. And they've given him a smaller guy here in Jacob Malkoun, 5'9" to 5'8". And obviously, we know that the 11-0 Torrez Finney likes to come in. He likes to be able to dominate his opponents with his short, stocky build. He wants to look to get the fight to the ground and land ground and pound. And we know with Jacob Malkoun, he's a heavy wrestler with decent boxing. But this fight will probably play out mostly on the feet. I think Malkoun is going to be a guy that's going to be able to get this fight where he wants it. If he wants to keep it on the feet, I think he can have success. I think if he does want to take the fight to the ground, I think that Finney is definitely somebody that can defend takedowns early. However, I think as the fight plays out, I think Jacob Malkoun can definitely get takedowns as, the lactic acid build up, as Finney gets a little bit tired with that, kind of stocky build. But I do think this is going to play out in the UFC's favor, seeing how Torrez Finney handles this matchup here, where a guy is not going to be able to just, he's not going to be able to lay and pray. He's going to be able to have to fight on the feet. We're going to have to see what his striking's about. And he's not necessarily going to have a guy that's going to have this long, rangy frame that he's going to have to struggle to get on the inside here. But I'm actually going to go with Jacob Malkoun here. I like the boxing of Malkoun. I've seen in previous fights when he fought against Andre Petrovsky that, the hands do look good. The boxing's fairly fundamental. And I've not seen enough out of Finney's striking really to fill me with confidence. He is the more athletic guy. He is a guy, obviously, undefeated, confidence at 11-0. But that previous, performance with the kind of snuggling of Robert Valentine, he's a guy that most people finish inside the UFC. If you're not finishing him, I have a lot of questions. I do think this is a matchup here that's going to show whether Finney is UFC level or not. And I do like Jacob Malkoun to be able to get this one done with the better striking. Sprawl and brawl, I think both guys' wrestling is going to be negated here, and Jacob Malkoun's got the better striking. So give me Jacob Malkoun to get this one done. Carlos, who you got in this matchup?
We went with Jacob Malkoun as well. I just think Malkoun can force Finney to work, and that was one of the things in the Valentine fight, is that he was getting like noticeably tired. It's just the fact that he was, he's much more bulky, he's a little more powerful, the better athlete, so he was able to kind of power through some of the fatigue, because maybe Valentine is not as strong in certain positions. So once he got him down, he was able to control him from there. But I also believe that he's not going to be able to keep Malkoun down. I think Malkoun has just enough wrestling, just enough grappling ability to make him work on the ground, force him to have to get out of submissions, force him to have to, block some shots from the bottom, force him to have to, change positions, force him to not strike, just hold him down. And that's what's going to make him tired. And on the feet, I think once they get back up there, I think Malkoun has just a little bit more takedown defense that he's going to be able to defend, separate, land some shots, be able to be effective, whereas someone like Valentine wasn't able to. Torrez, though, he does have that build. He's stocky, he's strong, he's a brute, but he doesn't brutalize his opponents. Now, maybe he had a finish on the Contender Series, but, against Valentine, like you said, you should get the finish. But Valentine's not somebody that someone like Torrez is going to finish, because Finney is just, he's just going to lay on you. That's all he wants to do. When it comes down to it, he can't stand, create distance, and strike. But against Valentine can close those gaps in the grappling to keep himself safe. He can attack the hips, and that's what he was doing, was being able to not take damage on the ground. Someone like Malkoun can force Finney to have to take some of that damage, because he has just a little bit more ability grappling than Valentine did. So that's why I went with Malkoun.
And next up at UFC 325, we've got Cameron Rowston, former Dog of the Week.
So we got Aiden Dennis, dog.
Taking on Cody Brundage. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I ended up going with Rowston in this one. He's new. He's got the height, reach advantage. Looking to strike at range, or in the guard. The guy, he does a lot of work from the top as well. But he's very well versed in submissions, which adds that threat to someone like Brundage, because if Brundage takes you down and gets reversed, Rowston can not only can he implement ground and pound, but he can also look for the submissions. But on the feet, Brundage is not bad. Okay, like he's just not skilled. But if he throws an overhand or any type of hooks, he can land. He's skilled enough to land it, and he can hurt you. He can put you out and finish you from there. But I just don't think he's going to be able to do that to Rowston. I'm going to just take a chance saying it. I think that Rowston's just a little bit more skilled on the feet. I think defensively he's a little sharper. And I think that he's going to use those knees as close as he gets in there, and he's going to try to clinch, beat up the body of Brundage, force him to go for takedowns, maybe look for a guillotine or a darce on the ground, something like that. He's got those long limbs, stuff that you have to look out for long, kind of lanky fighters. And I think on the feet he punishes Brundage, and on the ground I think he gets the best of him in those grappling exchanges.
Yeah, I see pretty much everything that you see here. I'm not really a big fan of Cody Brundage. I don't really see what the hype about. Don't really see why we keep this guy around. But, I digress. Cam Rowston, obviously I explained in my Dog of the Week. big fan of this guy, City Kickboxing, but not just a kickboxer. As Carlos mentioned, he's got pretty nice jiu-jitsu, nice ninja chokes, nice guillotines. Obviously the long limbs serve him well, especially when people shoot him for sloppy takedowns. We saw in the Andre Petrovsky fight that obviously he can mix that in. He's got good striking. He's got power in the hands. And even though there is a 3-inch reach discrepancy here, I think it's going to feel like a lot more than that 3 inches. No pun intended there. Do with that what you will, you dirty savages. Cody Brundage is a guy to me that, if he can't get the wrestling going on the feet, he's not a guy that really believes in his striking. He's not a guy that's going to come in and overwhelm him with pressure. He's not a guy that really believes in himself, I really think. And I think Cam Rowston's on the right track. I think that he can win this fight however he wants to. If he wants to have a back-and-forth striking affair, I think he's going to get the better of Brundage in that. I think he's going to be longer. I think he's going to be faster. I think on the feet, he serves, a much better, healthier training camp with guys over at City Kickboxing. He's seeing killers on the feet every single day. A guy like Cody Brundage is going to be slow, very methodical, very plodding in comparison. I think if he wants to picket him from range with his kicks, I think he can do that too. And I think if Cody Brundage shoots him for a sloppy takedown, he's going to be able to defend the takedowns. He's going to be able to look for the front chokes like I mentioned earlier. I think he's going to use those to be able to get back to his feet. Like I say, I think this is Cam Rowston all day. Feel fairly confident in him, and I could pretty much see this fight playing out in multiple ways, all of which get Cameron Rowston his hand raised at the end of the day. And next up at UFC 325, we've got Jamie Mullarkey taking on Quillan Salkilld. Carlos, I'm going to pass this one to you. Who you got in this matchup?
I'm going with Salkilld in this one. He's happy to be the aggressor in the fight. He's happy to not be the aggressor in the fight. He's pretty good at countering nicely. He's got good wrestling. He's rangy, keeps the distance. He stays pretty composed. I don't know if there's anything I don't like about him. The guy's striking, his wrestling, stays composed, transitions from position smoothly. His striking is smooth. And then you have Mullarkey, and Mullarkey's a good fighter. You know what I mean? He comes to fight. He's throwing his shots. He's not really moving his head. His stance is wide. You could chew up his leg if you wanted to. You could probably pick his leg, which is what I think Salkilld can do if he wanted to take him down easy because the stance is wide. And he comes straight forward and straight back, leaving himself to be countered, leaving himself not even to be countered, just to be hit. And but I like Mullarkey because he's tenacious. He wants to get after it. He wants to finish the fight. He's coming for you. But against the fighter the caliber of Salkilld, he's not going to be able to get it done. So I'm going with Salkilld. Probably going to get the stoppage. I'm going to say round 2, but we'll see.
One-way traffic, ladies and gentlemen. Quillan Salkilld here. Definitely got to be the pick. One of my more confident favorites on this card. Jamie Mullarkey, known for that chinny behavior. I think this one's pretty much going to be all she wrote. Quillan Salkilld by knockout is the only way I see this one. He's been impressive since stepping into the UFC, obviously with that under 30-second Jubilee knockout that I don't think a lot of people sort of saw, and that was kind of the taster that they got. I'm with Carlos. I like everything about this kid. He showed in his second fight in the UFC that he can mix in the grappling. He can go the distance. He can push a pace with the grappling, but where he gets it done is on the feet. He coming off that head kick knockout of Nasrat Haqparast, which I don't think a lot of people saw either. I think that people thought that was going to be the one where, he kind of halts his momentum. He was able to make Nasrat look pretty easy, and Nasrat has taken a lot of damage up until that point. He's shown that he has a chin that he can bite down on his mouthpiece, but Salkilld made it look pretty easy. So why would he struggle here against a guy in Jamie Mullarkey, who's coming off of a decision victory here against Batbayar, who's a guy that's not even got a winning record inside the UFC. Mullarkey known to be chinny. This is really just a 1 + 1 = 2 breakdown here, and I like everything about him, even from the porn star mustache. So give me Quillan Salkilld here to find the knockout. And I think that this fight pretty much is set up for him to kind of make a name inside of his own, kind of part of the region, part of the world, to get, a little bit more of a fan base here. And I don't really understand the logic behind him fighting Jamie Mullarkey. I just wanted to touch upon that. obviously him fighting Nasrat Haqparast, I'm pretty sure was either ranked or close to the rankings. Now all of a sudden we're giving him Jamie Mullarkey, who was coming off of a 2-fight skid before he was able to beat Batbayar, who's on a losing record inside the UFC. Just strikes me as a matchup where they just want to feed, Jamie Mullarkey to the lions here, give Quillan Salkilld a knockout on his resume inside of, his region of the world. But either way, I think it's definitely something that's going to happen this week. Put your money on it. Definitely confident in Quillan Salkilld this week. And next up at UFC 325, we've got the big boys. We've got Tuivasa taking on Tallison Teixeira. Carlos, who you got in this one?
I like Tuivasa, but I'm going to go with Teixeira in this one. And, he's a big boy. He's not slow. He's very coordinated. He can scramble on the ground. But, as me and you were discussing, like it all depends on which Teixeira actually shows up. Because from the Contender Series to the Derek Lewis fight, that particular Teixeira actually allows himself to get hit. He comes forward when he's throwing his strikes, leaves him open to get hit with a random shot, as he did. On the Contender Series, though, that kid just didn't have enough to finish him. Someone like Lewis had enough to put him out. But then he fought Justin Tafa, and he fought like a very seasoned fighter. He fought long, he fought high, and when he was in, caught him with some elbows and ended up stopping the fight. So didn't come in wild, didn't come in, and maybe that's what he thought. He was overwhelming Derek Lewis at the time, and he's throwing some strikes. Lewis turns his head, and he's like, I'm going to get the finish, going to get the finish. And then he got tagged because he came in a little reckless. But with that said, I feel like Tuivasa could do the same thing if Teixeira actually gets a little reckless. He comes in, lands one shot on Tuivasa. Tuivasa goes back, turns his body, and he thinks, I'm just going to go for the finish. And then he lands a bomb, So those things can happen. But to me, I feel Tuivasa, he's got to overcome a lot of reach, and he doesn't have a good way of getting inside, doesn't have good movement with his head, doesn't keep a high guard. His feet are a little lumbering. That's kind of tailor-made for somebody like Teixeira, who could be a little skilled, fight long. He's got quick hands in comparison to Tuivasa, in comparison to most heavyweights. He is very, like I said, I say coordinated because in the heavyweight division, when you get the new guys, they're a little sloppy, they're a little slow, and they can't put it all together. Teixeira has the ability to put it together, and he looks like he's a little athletic. But the thing is mentally, can he stop himself from just coming forward and getting hit? And I feel he can. I feel he can do that. So I'm going to take Teixeira in this one. I feel that if he lands on Tuivasa and he hurts him, he can get the finish because that's what he does. He can finish people, and he goes after it pretty solid. So I think that at range, Tuivasa gets clipped, and Teixeira comes in and finishes him off. I like Tuivasa. I just don't see a way for him to get past it. But like I said, if Teixeira gets sloppy, if that one shows up, I think Tuivasa's got a chance. But Teixeira, that's who I got. Who you got, bro?
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that if Tuivasa wins this fight, we look like geniuses, saying, obviously Teixeira is going to be my pick, but I have a weird feeling about this one. I'm going to say if Tuivasa gets this one done, I'm going to do a shoey on the next full card breakdown just for the fans.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
The ground and pound faithful, but I'm going to go with Teixeira here, and I kind of have that same sort of if and but here about Teixeira. It's which Teixeira shows up. I think it's going to be the one he fought against Justin Tafa. I think it's he's going to come in here, land the elbows, not have the tall man defense, and I do think that Tuivasa is a guy that's kind of past his prime. He's had his moment here, and I do think that Tallison Teixeira is the more skilled heavyweight, obviously with the huge reach advantage. He does carry a lot of power. He can pick and prod at range. And he does have, decent, well-rounded skill set. And we know that Tuivasa is not going to be a guy that's going to come in and, look to get the big fella off of his feet and mix in takedowns and grappling. Both guys want to stand and bang. That's Tuivasa's, game plan. He either lands or you land on him. That's it. Kill or be killed. I think the Teixeira here of old. We're going to see him. We're going to see a little bit more of a chin tucked here after being knocked out by Derek Lewis, whether you agree with the stoppage or not. I'm rooting for Tuivasa, though. Who wouldn't want to do a shoey, you know? What? Why did I even agree to that? But yeah, I'm going with Teixeira here. I think he's skilled. I think he's a little bit more athletic. Tuivasa at this point, 5-fight losing streak, obviously getting finished in a lot of those. And I think he struggled against Volk with the height and the reach to really get on the inside there. I think he's going to struggle here with Teixeira's height and reach as well. So give me Tallison Teixeira here inside the distance. And next up at UFC 325, this one's an absolute banger. Looking forward to this one. We've got Mauricio Rufy taking on Rafael Fiziev. Carlos, who you got in this striker v striker matchup?
I've got Fiziev in this one, and you know, we were talking about earlier. I think strike for strike, I think Fiziev could stand with him. I just feel that on the feet, Rufy's going to get the better of him. You know what I mean? He's going to get into that flow state if he knows there's no threat of a takedown. So I feel that Fiziev needs to start early with the takedowns. He needs to wrestle a lot.
Let's wrestle. Let's wrestle. Let's wrestle.
A lot early. He needs to clinch him early. And he has to make Rufy feel that threat of, all right, I can't overextend on anything. I have to be ready to sprawl. I have to be ready to down block. I have to be ready to frame. Everything that every fighter pretty much has to do is transition from striking to wrestling. And Rufy hasn't really had to deal with that threat all the time. Now, Fiziev can pose that threat. The guys over at Tiger Muay Thai, yes, they got great stand-up, but they also have very good wrestling, and they have very good takedown defense, very good takedowns. They're very well-rounded camp over there, and I just feel that Fiziev has enough skill. He could punish him on the feet. Like I said, punish him early, make Rufy have to defend. And when he's defending, has a high guard, go in for that takedown. Make him feel uncomfortable on the ground if you can. Now, Rufy's most likely, you'd be stupid if you don't, but has to be working on his wrestling. He needs to be able to get back up. Being held down like that by Benoit Saint-Denis was very, I got to say for him, very embarrassing. Someone with so much hype, and now everybody found the answer. Everybody knows how to stop him. Now, he's probably been working. He's an athlete. And he's going to be able to get back up, going to be able to wrestle a little bit better. Is it going to be enough to keep Fiziev off him? Is it going to be enough to get back to his feet against somebody like Fiziev? Who knows? I just know that Fiziev, he can wrestle, he can strike, and that's going to pose a huge problem for Rufy. So I'm going to take Fiziev to get it done.
Yeah, great analysis. I can't deny that that's definitely a strategy I think Fiziev can employ, you know, getting worried about the takedowns, especially after his last matchup. But when doing research for this fight, originally I was kind of leaning towards Fiziev until I read one thing that kind of swayed my mind, and that's that Rufy has left the Fighting Nerds. He's gone over to train with Alexander Volkanovski's camp towards the latter stages of last year after him obviously losing to Benoit Saint-Denis. I think that's a great move. If you really think about Volkanovski, what he does well and what he's going to be able to get from that camp, I think his cardio is going to improve, which has definitely been something that's been a question mark for Rufy. I think his grappling is going to improve in terms of his takedown defense. And I think overall, Volk's ability to be able to kind of hit and not get hit, circle around on the outside, you know, kind of chop at the low kick, all things that I think a guy like Rufy will be able to learn from and implement in his game plan here. And I think that's why I'm going to pick him here. I think Mauricio Rufy, I'm going to assume he's made improvements. That's what I'm basing this breakdown off of. Obviously, if it's just the last Rufy that we just saw against Fiziev, I think Fiziev probably takes it. But I'm going to say that Mauricio Rufy comes in here, a better version of himself, 2.0 here. And I think realistically, when you look at Rufy's skill set, we all know about the striking. People compare it to Conor McGregor. Carlos and I have talked about that, debated about that. You know, I think that he's definitely a talented striker. He's definitely exciting to watch. That spinning wheel kick of Bobby Green is a highlight that's not going to leave anybody's mind from last year's knockout. But what I like about Rufy here is the hands. When you look at Fiziev, he's got very nice kicks. He chops at the low kick. He's got that, you know, Muay Thai base, as Carlos mentioned. And the kicks are definitely in the repertoire of Fiziev. But I think that the straight shots, the counter strikes of Rufy here straight down the pipe is what's going to be able to serve him well. And I think that combined with the new cardio, the new ability to be able to defend takedowns here against Fiziev is going to be what's going to serve him well. He's got the slight height, the slight reach advantage. And I think when he's the one that's able to control range on the feet, he's very, very tough to beat. And I think he's going to be able to do that. When you look at Fiziev with the striking, he's obviously very compact, shoulders high. He's got, the hands are very, very sort of tight together in that sort of Muay Thai style. And I think Rufi, when, like Carlos mentioned, he gets into a flow state, he can kind of become a sniper. He can maybe have Fiziev guessing. And we saw in the Justin Gaethje fight, Gaethje was able to land on Fiziev with the boxing, with the hands. I think Rufi's going to have no problem touching him with the boxing. And I think both guys are going to have their moments with the strikes, with the legs, with the kicks. And I think realistically it comes down to whether Carlos is right and Fiziev can mix in a couple of takedowns here, and if Rufi has improved that takedown and that element of his game. I'm going to say that he does. Give me Mauricio Rufi here as a slight underdog to get this one done, providing that he shows up as the new 2.0 version of himself. If we see the old version, all bets are off. I think Fiziev probably takes it, but I'm going to go with Rufi to get it done. And now we have the co-main event at UFC 325. And as always, if you're enjoying the content here, hit that like and subscribe button as Carlos breaks down Dan, the Hangman Hooker, taking on Benoit Saint-Denis.
So I went with Dan Hooker in this one. And the reason I did was pretty much because, Saint-Denis, he's not gonna pose the same threat that Arman Tsarukyan does. If he gets Dan Hooker down, Hooker's gonna get back up. As I think Saint-Denis poses about the same ground threat as someone like Gamrot, as we discussed. I think that Saint-Denis can get him down. I just think Hooker can get back up. Now, when it comes to the submission defense, I feel that Hooker, like I said, he's not going against someone like Tsarukyan. He's not going against someone like Khabib. So I'm not saying that Saint-Denis can't submit him. I'm just saying I think he's not at that level to be able to submit Hooker, unless maybe he gets Hooker hurt or something early in the fight, which I don't see that happening either. I also think maybe by round 2, Saint-Denis is going to have a hard time with his cardio, trying to keep Dan down, trying to fight on the feet, because I think at some point he's going to struggle to get takedowns, and I feel that's where Dan Hooker is going to open up on him. And like I told you, I feel maybe a second round finish coming on. May not even be a finish. It might go to decision. That's just my feeling. I think second round, Saint-Denis is going to use a lot of strength trying to take him down, trying to keep him down, and he's going to be too worn out to get takedowns. Dan's going to beat him up on the feet, beat him up on the ground. Somehow, whether it's sub or KO, he's going to get it done.
I'm going with Dan, the Hangman Hooker. And before I break this one down, I got to say, man, if you're a UFC fan, this is a great fucking fight. Hats off to the UFC. Round of applause. Really. Round of applause. Really happy with this fight. Co-main event. Both guys bringing it. Both guys are always absolute savages when they step into the cage. Benoit Saint-Denis obviously got the pedigree chops for the grappling. Can stand with the good kickboxing. Obviously has that nice head kick. And he's, tough as nails. The guy comes in, he's always ready to scrap, whether he gets beaten up and gets finished, or he's a guy that looks to take people's heads off. Dan Hooker very much the same way. I am gonna lean to Dan Hooker here. I know he's the underdog here. I like him in this matchup. I think Saint-Denis early is going to have a lot of success. He's going to be the one pushing forward. He's going to look to take this fight to the ground, kind of make it a gritty back and forth fight. He's going to try to push Hooker up against the fence. But we know with Dan Hooker, he's got good takedown defense. And as Carlos mentioned, that I don't think Benoit Saint-Denis got the kind of grappling and scrambling ability that Arman Tsarukyan has. I think this fight plays out similar to the Gamrot fight. I think you see, Benoit Saint-Denis early landing shots in the clinch, trying to look for the takedowns. Both guys have moments on the feet, but ultimately Benoit Saint-Denis is going to maybe get a takedown late in a round to seal it. And then as the fight progresses, Saint-Denis is going to get a little bit more tired. Dan, the Hangman Hooker, is going to be able to keep the fight standing. Maybe land that nice knee up the middle that he likes as Benoit Saint-Denis comes in for an entry and for his takedowns. And Dan starts to take over with his cardio. He's a guy that loves to be in a dogfight. I think he needs to get punched in the face a few times before he really gets going.
What the hell are you doing? I'm kicking my ass! Do you mind?
you've seen as well, if you've ever seen the one fight, I can't remember which one it is, but he goes over to his corner and he's like bad, bruised, bleeding. And he's like, I fucking love this shit. And I think that in this fight, he's got an opponent here realistically that he's not going to be able to take him down consistently and be able to get top pressure on top, to kind of wear on Dan. I don't think he's going to be able to submit him either. And I think that's going to cause Benoit Saint-Denis to get tired. I think Dan's going to see the chink in his armor and he's going to capitalize here. So I think if this was a 5-round fight, I would feel even more confident in Dan. I do think the fact that it's 3 has me a little bit skeptical, especially if Benoit Saint-Denis can, dish out a lot of damage early in round 1 and 2. But I'm going to go with Dan the Hangman Hooker here, a guy that's been around the block, fought Dustin Poirier in a back-and-forth war. He does a good job of defending the takedowns. I think he does that here and ultimately gets his hand raised in his part of the world. And Benoit Saint-Denis, not taking anything away from him, but we have seen inconsistent performances in the past from him. I think that Moicano fight was definitely a question mark, kind of a head-scratcher moment. I wouldn't be surprised if he had another one here against Dan, the Hangman Hooker, if he can't get this fight to the ground. And it's time for the UFC 325 main event. Alexander Volkanovski taking on Diego Lopes 2. And as always, if you're enjoying the content here, hit that like and subscribe button as Carlos breaks down this main event.
I'm gonna take on this one. I'm gonna take Volkanovski again. I think it's the same recipe for success. A lot of movement, in and out strike, and change your angles. And I think that Lopez doesn't really have an answer for that. He doesn't know how to cut a ring. He's going to be chasing him around again. And Volk, if he wants to take him down, I'm not going to say easier fight because Lopez could be dangerous off his back. But what I'm saying is he's not going to submit Volk like that. So if Volk takes him down, starts to play in the guard a little bit, throws a little ground and pound, stands up, starts moving around. I think that's a easy way to success, but I think it's going to be the same way. I think he's going to throw some strikes from the outside as he darts in. Lopez is not going to be able to counter as he gets out. And I think it's going to be pretty much like the first fight. So I'm going to take Volkanovski.
I'm going to go with Lopes. I said to Carlos, I kind of flip-flopped on this one. I just have one of these gut feelings.
I got a feeling.
Type moments, and I can't really ignore that. I'd rather pick and go with my gut sometimes. And I just got this feeling that Diego Lopes, you looked at that first fight, as Carlos said, rightfully so, Volkanovski dancing around on the outside, tapping the low kick, kind of picking, prodding, being defensively sound. Lopes, was kind of swinging at air, having moments where he was able to land. But, there was no sort of oh shit moment, as Volkanovski liked to describe that guillotine from Brian Ortega. There was no moment where you kind of thought, Volkanovski's going to get knocked out here. He's over the hill. He looked kind of like the Volk of old. But I just have this feeling here that Lopes is going to be able to come in. I do think that Volk is maybe over the hill. I keep staring at that 37 years of age, and it's just bothering me, especially at 145. I think that Lopes is a guy that, he's got all the skill sets to be a champion. He is a guy that can hit very hard. He's got the jiu-jitsu. He's got the grappling. I do agree with Carlos. He doesn't cut the ring off very well, and he will struggle to be able to do that here against Volkanovski. But I just think there's just going to be one moment in this fight, where Volk, zigs instead of zags. Lopes is able to kind of land that one big shot. And I'm not a big fan of basing a whole fight off of landing one big punch. I do think Volkanovski's going to be winning until he's losing. But I just see Lopez being able to get his hand raised here. I think there was moments in that first fight where Lopes is going to be able to look back and say, hey, if I just did this here, I'm going to be able to land my powerful shots. And he is very dangerous early. Obviously, he's something that, he's a very formidable opponent. I don't think he'll be able to find a submission here on Volk, but I do think the power in the hands might come in early. We've seen with Volkanovski that he does get his chin checked, and he doesn't necessarily take punches as well as he used to. So give me Diego Lopez here. And new. It's a shame. I love Volkanovski. He's one of my favorite fighters, but I do think at 37 years old, I do think here at 145, there's going to come a point where, guys just get over the hill. It's a shame because I do think that Volkanovski is still a very feasible fighter. I just have my question marks as whether he's going to be the same Volkanovski that we're used to seeing, and I'm going to predict that it's not the case. So give me Diego Lopes here to get this one done. and new champion, and maybe Volkanovski retires after this one, which also has me kind of questioning whether he's going to be fully mindful of here in this fight. His head's going to be in it, or maybe his head's out the door thinking about retirement. But that's what we have time for here. If you've enjoyed the content, hit that like and subscribe button. And before we wrap things up, we're going to let Carlos say what he wants to say to the people.
I just want to say I hope you guys enjoyed it, and pretty much Volk is a confident pick. It sucks to say because they're 37 years old. You know, you can drop off the edge of that hill at any time. Anytime after 35, you've been in that many wars, that can happen. But I feel confident Volk's going to win, and I hope you feel confident in liking and subscribing if you like the content. So we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know who you got in the main event. This is a great card, 2 back-to-back pay-per-views. We're banging them out here for you guys on the Ground and Pound podcast. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.